We harvested crops all winter long under double cover. And now that spring is finally here, our crops are really taking off and we have more to harvest now than we've had in months. Today I'd like to invite you to join me as I gather today's harvest in late March in Zone 5. Today I'll be making a vegetarian version of a Cobb salad, so I'll be harvesting only greens from the garden. We also have root crops that are ready to harvest, including parsnips, carrots, and sunchokes, but those won't be needed today. And I'll also be making a dessert from something I harvested last fall, and I'll show you more of that later. Let's get started by harvesting lettuce. We planted this Hungarian pink winter lettuce here last fall, and as you can see, it's done very well. Through the winter, we harvested it using a cut and come again approach. In other words, we just harvest some of the leaves and leave the rest of the plant in place. The reason I'm harvesting the whole plants now is that they're close to maturity, and I want to make room for summer crops that I'll be planting here in a matter of days. As you can hopefully see, I'm trying to create an opening here where I'll be planting early season determinate tomatoes next weekend under double cover. This is part of an experiment I'm doing where I'll start some of these tomatoes indoors and transplant them out later. I'll start some outdoors and I'll compare the results. I'll be sharing the results with you in a playlist of videos. Harvesting these plants whole like this will give me enough lettuce for a salad in no time at all. So today's video could be pretty short. But as I often do, instead of just using lettuce, which is what the recipe calls for, I'll use a variety of mixed greens. So let's pick some kale too. I'll harvest the kale from the low tunnel behind me where we have a nice little forest of kale growing. Here we have Siber Frill and starboard kale. I bought the seeds for this Siber Frill from Bountiful Gardens. Unfortunately, they don't sell seeds anymore. So I definitely plan on saving seeds from these plants. I'm sure other seed sellers also sell these seeds, but I like the idea of continuing these Bountiful Garden plants, saving their seeds and keeping them going, since Bountiful Gardens made such a huge contribution to my garden over the years through their seeds. I'll also save the seeds for the Hungarian pink winter lettuce I harvested earlier. One noteworthy development is that we're now starting to see slugs here in the hoop house. We're not seeing them in the rest of the garden where it's still much too cold, but we do see them here. Fortunately, they're not causing a whole lot of damage yet. This is probably because it's still quite cold in the hoop house at night and probably too cold for the slugs to thrive. Let's get rid of this guy. Now let's harvest greens from one of our double-layered hinge low tunnels. It's now warm enough that our cool weather crops no longer need 2 layers of cover. So I'll be removing 1 layer of cover from both of our double-layered hinge low tunnels very soon, and the second layer will come off around our average last frost date, which is at the end of April. However, because I'll be planting summer crops in the hoop house, that cover will stay on until mid-May. We have nothing but cool weather crops in this bed, including lettuce, kale, mache, claytonia, and spinach. But today I want to focus on harvesting mache because it's already starting to bolt. We'll let some of our mache plants go to seed and self-sow to produce the next crop, but we don't need them all to go to seed. We'd be overrun by mache if we did. In general, our strategy will be to let some plants go to seed, but not all of them. That'll produce enough seed to plant next year, but we will end up cutting back most of the crops that bolt. And this is to provide space for the plants that were planted in late winter and early spring. For example, here in this bed we have this lettuce, which was transplanted out here in mid-February, and the sugar snap peas that we started in mid-February are also starting to poke through the soil. Okay, I think that's all the mache I'll need for today's salad. Now let's head back to the hoop house to see our final harvest, and I'll show you what I harvested last fall that I'll be using today to make dessert. And here's a look at today's final harvest of Hungarian pink winter lettuce, Siber Frill kale, and mache. Not too shabby for March, especially considering I'm only scratching the surface of what's growing out in the garden. And here at my feet is a Cushaw squash, which I harvested last fall. I'll cut into it today to make a Cushaw pie. Of course, a squash this size will make many pies and other dishes as well. Now I'll head inside to make the salad and the pie, and I'll be back to show you the results in just a moment. I think I'll bring the Cushaw in first. Okay, I'm back with my Cobb salad and Cushaw pie. For the Cobb salad, I followed a fairly standard recipe, but made a few changes. I've got the dressing on the bottom, the greens in the middle, and of course the toppings on top. And I'll mix the salad all together before eating it. A salad this size is usually big enough for me for a meal, but sometimes I will go back for seconds. The only changes I made to the recipe were to use kale and mache in addition to lettuce, and I used vegetarian substitutes for bacon and chicken. All the other toppings are the same. For the Cushaw pie, I followed one of our favorite recipes to the letter. For those of you who haven't tried it before, it's very similar to pumpkin pie. One of the great things about Cushaw squash is that it stores so well. We kept ours in our kitchen pantry at room temperature from last October when we harvested it until late March when we finally cut into it to make this pie. And the squash is big enough that we'll be able to make several pies plus other recipes. And once again, both of these recipes are in the description below, just in case you'd like to try them. Well, I'm going to get inside to enjoy this meal. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on how to grow a lot of food on a little land without spending much or working harder than you have to.